Let's turn our attention back to the politics of the day with me and my Sky News colleague Graham Richardson. Richo, Anthony Albanese, he's gone the Christie McBain approach again, this time in Gladstone, going for a popular local mayor as the candidate. The individual in question is Matt Burnett is his name. This is an interesting approach. Do you think it can be successful, given obviously the success in Eden Monero with McBain?
Yeah, well, it is very hard to get yourself known, especially when you've got by-elections when it's only a few weeks. It's virtually impossible to get yourself known. So it's very handy if you can pluck a candidate out who's already well known, who's already got plenty of support, who's already proven to be popular. So it makes a hell of a lot of sense. And that's why if you look at the history of politics, honestly, mate, the number of mayors who finish up running is extraordinary.
And Anthony Albanese, we should remember, if you go back in his career, started out as a party strategist, a party official. We often talk about Scott Morrison as a former state secretary, but I think people should remember that Albanese's got a similar background and is quite shrewd when it comes to these matters. From my understanding, he's got not just one or two, but several of these lined up, ready to go.
Yeah, he's been working on this for quite some time. He's no slouch, Anthony, and he also knows how hard Morrison is to beat. He knows you've got to put in a special effort, and that's exactly what he's doing. I actually am really pleased to see that we're getting people who are already well known in the electorate, because when you're a campaign director, and I've been a campaign director who knows how many times, that's the hardest thing. Getting your man or your woman up there in lights so that people know who they are.
And in this area, it's the seat of Flynn. It's around Gladstone. Ken O'Dowd's the member, but there's talk that he's going to not contest the next election. So that's another flip in terms of the numbers, because normally, if you're a good local member, you carry a few percentage points in that personal vote, don't you?
Yeah, if you're a really good local member, you might carry up to 2%. Now, when you think of the number of seats that switch on 1%, you've got to say to yourself that's pretty important. So I'd say that plucking out those who are already well known is a very good idea.
What about the jobless numbers? Josh Frydenberg spoke to me earlier on the program, and it's a very encouraging, promising story for the government to tell, but every time they go to tell the strong economic story, there's some other drama that is distracting from their main game. That must be a worry for them.
It has to be. For the first few years of the Morrison government, that didn't occur. But I think what happens is that as your governments get older and they serve more days and more days, there's certainly opportunities to introduce new policies and do wonderful things. But there's also a big opportunity for a cock-up. And, eventually you get one. And the Morrison government's had a few hiccups over recent times. And I think he'd be talking to his troops saying, pull your socks up, we have to do a little bit better than this if we want to stay here.
Yeah, they need to have people hear what, the message they want to sell and to be on, as they say, on their own comfortable turf. The other thing is that our friend Michael Kroger says regularly, I think it's a valid point, that this is a government looking to be, they will take over the Howard government's length in office at the next election. They've had different prime ministers, but the fact is that doesn't happen that often. That's what they're asking for at the next election.
Now, a long period of Liberal rule, and as long as Morrison stays, it's very hard to see that changing. He's been quite politically astute. This bloke knows which way's up. He's done remarkably well. And so something's going to have to happen that's pretty dramatic to enable Labor to win. And those sort of dramatic circumstances don't occur very often. But Albo will keep bashing away, and he'll hope for eventually some sort of chink in the armour. Hasn't found it yet, but he'll keep trying.
But when you're getting up and beyond a decade, doesn't that also become a burden for the PM to have to carry in terms of longevity, that people think, they're past their use-by date, let's give the other mob a go?
Well, I think that's sort of, it's getting to that point. There's no doubt that the Morrison government's been in there a while, but I don't detect a mood for change. If you walk around the streets, people aren't coming up to me and saying, boy, can't wait for an election, we'll get rid of this mob. I'm just not getting any of that. And that's something that mood, without that mood, it's very hard to see him getting beaten.
Indeed. Richo, it'll be an eventful few months ahead. I appreciate that. Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Good on you, Kieran.